Is crashing kids' parties a thing? A bouncy house crasher? Not sure what kind of adult walks into somebody's backyard uninvited and goes, "Wee, double backflip!"
Squares were the buttoned-up, nervous people who thought rock and roll was noise and couldn't dance if their life depended on it. They don't drink
Oh,
or swear.
oh,
They don't rat their hair. They get
ew.
ill from one cigarette. Keep your filthy paws off my silky drawers. Would you pull that crap with a net?
Dare to speak of hope and aspiration. These are foul words, manufactured idols, and the bait of lemmings. Only futility is eternity. Only one surprise will tell.
In the words of Herb Tarlick from WKRP in Cincinnati, well, hard to get happy after that one.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.
Episode 974.
So we had fun last night at the auto bar, which I think I mistakenly put on this channel. It probably should have been on rock and roll, but it's our footage is up there anyway. They're kind of somewhere in between. Could be on either.
We saw Tooth, which was great. And this really weird band called Ladder.
Yeah, they were
different.
They were different. They had like a saxophone playing, but it wasn't like a horn section, and it wasn't like he had a solo. He was just kind of playing along with the rest of the chaos.
It was at the Auto Bar, and it was packed. So it was great. One thing about the Auto Bar is it's such a great place that they keep their old movie posters up. So I was actually able to go. I went to that Melvin show like 10 years ago. I went to that show. It's really cool. So anyway, but let's get on.
After a cat, so.
Okay, let's get on to it.
Ever forced to sleep somewhere you didn't plan, someplace you oughtn't? These situations can be caused by automotive mishaps, alcoholic indulgences, or just bad luck. But we've all been there at some point.
My car broke down in up in New Jersey one time, and I had to stay with my in-laws in Hackensack, right? Well, I had thought they were perfectly normal people until this happened, right? Came to find out that the oldest son had a garage full of, well, of products, right? He was an extreme couponer. 96 bottles of Windex, 84 jars of mayonnaise, and a pallet, I shit you not, of Jiffy Pop, which I thought they stopped making that shit in 1982, right? I really didn't want a tour of this mini Costco, but I got one anyway. He seemed particularly proud of the 19 bags of discontinued garlic M&Ms that he'd procured because, quote unquote, they're a collector's item now. Ugh, not for most of us, my friend. So I had just about fallen asleep, right? And then the youngest brother comes barging in rather loudly, obviously quite intoxicated. And despite my desire for shut-eye, I was forced to stay up for 2 hours hearing this lonely soul who had a conspiracy theory for everything. And I'm not talking about moon landings or ancient aliens building pyramids, not garden variety stuff. People use the word irregardless have a 20% more chance to get colon cancer before 30. Jay Leno somehow caused the war in the Falklands. Turn signals are secretly tracked by the government. I fell asleep to him explaining how there's a CIA crime lab under every junkyard.
To crash somewhere means to stay at someone's house, usually for free and usually on a couch with a dusting of cat hair and some potato chip crumbs. Dude, can I crash at your place tonight? Sure, you can splash down in the bathroom and use a guest towel. Of course, if you start charging that dude $147 a night plus a cleaning fee, you're technically running an unlicensed Airbnb. Oh, and don't put tap water in the coffee maker. The place where a group crashed became by proxy a crash pad. Dude, your crib is closest to the bar, so it's the designated crash pad tonight. Which sounds incredibly cool until you realize you're actually sharing a futon with another friend, trying to sleep underneath a blacklight across from an aquarium with his Burmese python Gambler in it. But don't worry, Gambler hardly ever gets out. And if you get spooked that you'll wake up in a love squeeze and move to the bathroom floor, that's a crash landing. 0 stars, do not recommend.
But crash had another meaning that became popular with music-loving hippies and party people. It was shortened from gate crash, meaning you got into a party or an event without actually being invited. You didn't buy a ticket, You bum rushed the gate, found a hole in the fence, and the whole gang crashed in. Or, more covertly, you didn't know anybody. You weren't some long lost uncle. You just showed up and acted like you belonged there, which gave us the party crasher. And apparently, humanity decided we needed to expand the concept. Put on a good suit and bag the bimbo bridesmaid with the double D's. Wedding crasher. Funeral crasher came next, but there's probably less chance of nookie and more chance of hearing about Aunt Rhoda's corns over her Pillsbury's best casserole.
Is crashing kids' parties a thing? A bouncy house crasher? Not sure what kind of adult walks into somebody's backyard uninvited and goes, "Wee, double backflip!" Little Jordan comes out with a black eye and a bruised chin. Little bastard should have gotten out of the way for my belly flop. At that point, you just give Steve a juice box and a party favor bag and let him bounce.
There must be events that demand that we at least try a crash. The tax return review crash. Maybe barge into H&R Block and insist they're ineffective with capital gains deductions. Then, I don't know, steal all the Splenda. That'll learn them. How about the driver's license renewal crash? Start randomly yelling out letters while someone's trying to pass the eye test. A, L, Y, V. Or better yet, take a number, and when they call your name and you go up to the counter, tell them you don't actually need to renew your license. You were just looking for a friend. I mean, we're all God's children, aren't we?
So, we want to hear your crash stories.
That's right.
Ever get stuck in an aunt's spare bedroom with creepy porcelain dolls watching you? Maybe wake up on your stone-a-friend sofa and realize you're wearing someone else's pants? We want to hear from you.
Absolutely. Come at us in the comments. Want to talk about our feature interview?
Absolutely. Our feature interview this week is with Matt Scott, bass player and vocalist for the DC death metal band Goetia. This is an epic chat if there ever was one, covering everything from choosing the band's moniker to the inspiration for the sinister themes on the new album, Mortuary Cult. We have a spirited round of Blaspheming Monikers, and there's even a bit of an Exorcist and Morbid Angel geek out. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, let's get this going. This is Lanterns of the Dead.
Hope for the Day. Hope for the Day is a nonprofit movement empowering the conversation on proactive suicide prevention and mental health education. Through outreach, education, and action, we equip people with the right tools to be proactive in their communities. Proactive prevention is about creating an environment that doesn't wait for someone to reach a point of crisis to address their mental health. In doing proactive prevention, individuals step up to take action and facilitate the conversation on mental health in their spaces.
Don't fall for the crap in your social media feeds, my friends. Life is not some robustly attended gender reveal, bride in a gown and sash like she's Miss America, guests oohing and eyeing about how beautiful their home is, as you live stream a ridiculous cake cutting ceremony. Life is not like this. Everyone has rough times. Everyone has to work through problems.
So if you or anyone you know has been in that dark place where all hope seems lost, it's not. Please check out the resources Hope for the Day offers in the links to the show notes below. And remember, it's okay not to be okay.
And speaking of ridiculous events, I think it's time. Hit it.
And now it's time for Obnoxious Trivia!
Okay, Documentary City. I'm feeling saucy.
Number 1. When an archaeology intern examining an old box of bones at the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute noticed something strange about a tapir skull, what did she discover? Do you know what a tapir is?
I don't even know. The Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute? Is that in D.C. or New York or what?
Where it is, but do you know what a tapir looks like?
No.
They kind of look like a pig with an elephant snout.
Oh my, okay.
Yeah. So, what did she discover? Was it A, the skull appeared to contain bullet holes, launching an investigation into a decades old mystery surrounding the animal? B, the tapir skull had a bump indicating a rare congenital deformity? C, the skull contained a perfectly preserved brain? Or D, the tapir had a replacement gold tooth, suggesting it had somehow received dental work?
Tapir. No. I'm going to say it had a bump indicating a rare congenital deformity.
That is an incorrect answer. The correct answer is it had bullet holes in its skull.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Somehow, the skull belonged to a tapir named Alice. I have no idea how they knew her name. And it prompted researchers to dig into old records to figure out what happened to her. The investigation reached back decades and involves museum specimens, field researches, possibly a war going out in the Panama Canal around this time where she might have been hit by a crossfire. But unfortunately, the mystery is still not solved.
Wow. Crazy stuff. All right. I'm doing great so far. All right, number 2.
On October 17th, 1978, Carol Bonnet was found stabbed to death in his Omaha apartment. The killer stole his vehicle and left behind a bizarre, taunting note. What did it say? A. Kick a can, catch me if you can, ya dummies. B. Bonnet got what he deserved. Karma! C. I am leaving this crime with one clue. Find it yourself. Die, pig. Or D. Jerry W. sent me. Scramble that egg.
A, kick a can?
It was actually, I'm leaving this crime scene with one clue. Find it yourself. Die, pig.
Did they ever find the clue?
They did. Eventually. That was also, I considered making that part of the thing. So the case was cold for over 30 years, and then they finally managed to run the latent prints through that CODA system, and it was matched to a man called Jerry Watson. Also, they figured out that the clue was a newspaper advertisement flyer laying right next to the victim's body with the name Jerry W. scribbled in cursive on it.
He left his name.
He left his name.
Wow.
Well, at least first
First
name,
name.
last initial.
Okay.
And they finally convicted him.
I'm doing as good as usual. Okay, number 3.
In December of 2000, the tortured and starved body of small business owner Dariusz Januszewski was found floating in the Old Otter River near Wrocław, Poland. What bizarre mistake did his killer make that eventually led investigators to him? A. The killer accidentally left his dry clean receipt in the victim's pocket. B. The killer tried to sell the victim's cell phone on eBay. C. The killer left a garrote with his initials engraved on it wrapped on the body. D. The killer wrote a novel containing a murder remarkably similar to the actual killing.
It's a garrote.
It's like a piece of wood used to tighten a rope. They used it to kill John Bonet.
Oh, right, okay. I'm going to say try to sell his cell phone.
Close. He actually did the Basic Instinct thing and wrote a novel. And the guy, he thought mistakenly that this guy was having an affair with his wife, which he was not. And he tortured him in very detailed, specific ways, which he felt the need to write a book about later.
Wow.
What did Sharon
So you
say?
got away with it, but then you had to like
He had to write a book. And, it's like, Sharon Stone. Would I be dumb enough to write a book about the actual murder I committed? I'd be announcing myself as the killer. But apparently that didn't work for this guy. And, yeah, he was convicted.
Wow. All right, let's reel the shit show in.
On July 8th,
2014, man.
Oh, July 8th, 2014, 28-year-old German tourist Lars Mittent was at a Brna airport in Bulgaria awaiting medical clearance to fly home when he suddenly did something bizarre. What did he do? A. He took off all his clothes, ran through the terminal, and got in line to buy donuts. B. He suddenly sprinted out of the terminal, climbed a barbed wire fence, and disappeared into a nearby field. C. He changed into a suit, walked into the airport runway, and was seen boarding an aircraft that never appeared in the flight records. Or D. He entered an airport bathroom and was never seen leaving, despite surveillance cameras covering every exit.
I'll say D. He entered an airport bathroom. Oh for 4.
0 for 4. He sprinted out of the terminal, climbed a barbed wire fence, and disappeared into a nearby field.
Like forever? Like they never found him?
They've never found him. He's the most famous missing person on YouTube, and you can watch this footage on YouTube. It's considered exceptionally bizarre because he was 28 years old. He panicked during a routine medical clearance, abandoned all his belongings, and sprinted terrified out of the terminal. They said 20 minutes earlier he was calmly walking through, and while he was being examined by a physician, a construction worker accidentally entered the room, and that triggered him to shout, "I do not want to die here," and then he just fled. He vanished with no money, no identifications. His bank accounts have never been touched. So they have no idea, but he was like running and looking behind him like he was actively being chased.
Okay.
Don't do drugs.
No idea. Yeah, don't do drugs. Okay, this was horrible. Obnoxious Trivia. My brain is like oatmeal tonight, so I'm not getting anything right. Okay. All right, it's time for our Snaggletoon, and this is called
Drawing the Feline. Now, we all know a cat that is fuzzy little asshole who stands on you while you're sleeping, gets hair all over your clean laundry, and throws up in your shoe. True story. But apparently, cat used to mean something much cooler. Back in the 1920s and 30s, the African American jazz community, a cat was a hip, stylish person, often a musician, a person with some swagger and serious chops. Some linguists think it was even comes from the Wolof word meaning cat, meaning a person or an expert. And then the jazz cats, beatniks, hippies, and rock and rollers kept the word alive. A heavy cat wasn't somebody who needed to stop going to the all-you-can-eat buffet. A heavy cat, somebody you respected, somebody intelligent, somebody with mad skills, artistically talented. Basically, if somebody called you a heavy cat, you had arrived. You conquered before you even played a note. B.B. King was a heavy cat in every sense of the word.
There's that word again, heavy. Is there a problem in the future with the Earth's gravitational pull? Then the 60s came along, and you had cats versus squares. Kind of like West Side Story with the Jets versus the Sharks, but much dumber. Cats were cool, open-minded, so tragically hip they could make a mustard stain seem intentional. Squares were the buttoned-up, nervous people who thought rock and roll was noise and couldn't dance if their life depended on it. They don't drink or swear. They don't rat their hair. They get ill from one cigarette. Keep your filthy paws off my silky drawers. Would you pull that crap with a net?
The Beatles even got in on it with British variations like Gear Cat. And eventually we got the Stray Cats, who basically self-branded themselves as cats and said, yeah, let's make an entire career out of this strut.
Always wondered, why would a cat need to pay the rent? Isn't this O'Malley's Alley? Anyway, but here's where I think we need to take a stand. I say let's bring cat back. Not just for musicians or jazz guys. I'm talking about completely gender-neutral replacement for bro, dude, my guy, homie, all the phrases I can't stand. Hey, cat, what's up?
Try it on your cashier at the drugstore. See what kind of reaction you get. What's happening, cat? Say it to your coworker, and hopefully they don't go straight to HR. That cat over there knows his shit, say to your fellow barmate. Nice shirt, cat. Say it to your aunt. And if somebody says nobody talks like that anymore, you simply look them dead in the eye and say, that's because you're a square. The next time you see your friend, don't call them bro, don't call them dude, call them cat. Give them a little wink and maybe a smirk. Be the change you want to see in the lexicon of slang. We can do better, felines.
Really, cat and square? That was the best we could come up with. Okay. Let's forget that immediately. This is Corpse Candle. Okay, let's talk about Home Chef.
Home chef is something that we enjoy on an every other week basis in this household. We love their meals, their ideas, the stuff they put together is stuff I wouldn't necessarily do myself. For instance, this week we haven't received it yet, it's coming. We have coming a pan-seared snapper with olive tapenade.
Oh my.
So that sounds exciting. It looks like it's panned with lemon green beans.
Okay.
We also have a classic chicken parmesan with zucchini. I'll probably break out the veggetti for that one.
Okay.
And a Vietnamese pepper pork bowl. Again, something I wouldn't just wake up and say, boy, I want to make a Vietnamese pork bowl. Always fun stuff in there, fresh ingredients. They give you everything you would need except olive oil and a little salt and pepper to taste. So you can get over there. They have tons of meals you can choose from. You can even add desserts. You can add breakfast items, all kinds of snacks they have on there now. They have ready to cook meals as well as prepare from scratch meals. All of it is delivered to your door in these lovely cooled bags that we save for our cooler too.
Yeah.
So use our link. It will save you off your first order at Home Chef.
Very good. And now it's time for Bombastic Plastic.
Bombastic.
This week we're going to talk about Assück's Misery Index album from 1997 on sound pollution. I am intrigued by the concept of a misery index. It immediately made me think of job searching. There is nothing worse than being unemployed, scanning through a job board and finding absolutely nothing even remotely interesting. It's not easy living on the $11 a week that unemployment somehow thinks can sustain your search. So you start considering jobs you hadn't before. The listings are a true misery index. Trash truck dispatcher, third shift, must be fluent in Spanish. Intern wanted, underwater golf ball retriever, must provide your own scuba equipment.
Norwegian sheep shearer must have reliable transportation and experience with livestock. And finally, printing press lubricator must be a notary public, Microsoft PowerPoint certification a plus. An hour scrolling through these fabulous opportunities will get you thinking you could actually live on $10 a week if you really set your mind to it. Living on tap water and ramen noodles sounds like a dream compared to chasing sheep around or being reprimanded in Spanish for squealing brakes.
Shifting the topic from a bevy of employment opportunities, we've featured several artists from the legendary Kentucky-based hardcore label Sound Pollution on the show before, namely the brain-bruising speedcore of Tokyo's Mind Evasion and the 2003 masterpiece of a split between Vivisic and Muqueca de Rato. But this week, we're really going for the gold, the crown jewel of the Sound Pollution catalog, and that would be the Floridian deathgrind pioneers, Assück. During their short 10-year lifespan, the three-piece quickly achieved legendary status in both the hardcore and death metal communities for their incredible demonstration that speed plus heaviness equals power.
The band's recorded output was a bit scant, producing a handful of splits and rare demos, but the real twin towers of the band's catalog are their full lengths. 1991's Anti-Capital and this beast, 1997's Misery Index. It is truly difficult to imagine that only 3 guys could produce a racket like this. 15 songs in 15 minutes. You do the math. Recorded at the legendary Morris Sound Studio in 1996, the album is packed with Steve Heritage, thorny, lickety-split riff patterns, the incredible blasting and rolling precision of drummer Rob Proctor, and a vocal style that makes Suffocation seem like the Starlight vocal band by comparison.
Salt Mine kicks off with an atonal guitar warm-up from Heritage before shifting into a ludicrously heavy slow trudge tempo. Heritage's subsonic grunts strike like a wounded lion under a tar pit, and Proctor's snare sounds like he's whacking a Home Depot bucket. Everything explodes like a thunderclap around the 30-second mark, guitar stutter-stepping into a marvelous slashing stop-start pattern with energy fully matched by the crazed yet controlled snare and double-kick assault that demonstrates why these guys blow away everybody in power violence at the time.
Let's play a clip. This is Salt Mine. QED wastes no time. A vicious speedball with riff that bleeds marvelously against Proctor's unique combination of jazz-like deafness and metallic pounding. Not a wordy band from a lyrical standpoint, just a few sentences of bleakness to be croaked out like a bullfrog. Dare to speak of hope and aspiration. These are foul words, manufactured idols and the bait of lemmings. Only futility is eternity. Only one surprise will tell.
In the words of Herb Tarlick from WKRP in Cincinnati, well, hard to get happy after that one. Listening to something like Unrequited Blood, you can almost hear a similarity to Kurt Ballou of Converge in Heritage's riff style. The speed, the chord economy, the dissonant edges, the hard panning. This one's a proggy minute and 15-second runtime, and the changing stop on a dime riff patterns packed into it are thrilling. So full of hardcore and metal simultaneously. These guys sort of fit next to bands like Time Ghoul and Demolic, a very limited discography, but what they did leave us is truly the stuff of legend. Remarkably, both of their full lengths are available for streaming on Spotify. Plus, you can probably snag the CD copies without breaking the bank in the process. But don't even think about trying to get the vinyl, my friend. The county doesn't pay you enough as a roadkill collector to be able to buy a $750 album. Let's play a clip. This is Unrequited Blood. Are you interested in me?
This was our interview with Matt from Goetia. It was a rather interesting talk. He's rather engaging. Certainly answered a lot of our questions, and we certainly did go down a few rabbit holes.
He brought up Exorcist 3, not me. I just want to say that, okay? Anyway, take it away.
How do you pronounce the band's name properly, and what do you think is the worst you've heard it screwed up?
So we say it Goetia. I think
Goetia.
the proper way it's Greek originally. So Goetia is probably more accurate, but
Okay.
we say it the way like most like like modern occultists say it,
Right.
Goetia. The worst one that I've heard was actually just last week. I'm not gonna put the guy on blast, but someone reviewed our album very positively, so appreciate that. But he kept calling us Gaeta, and he
Oh,
was
wow.
he was very like he wasn't questioning it. He ran with it. He said it like 40 times, like Gaeta, you got to listen to Gaeta. And I was like,
Oh,
thanks,
my.
man, but like I don't know where he got that from. That one was pretty wild to me.
Maybe
But
ChatGPT told him that was how you say it.
Could be, yeah.
he was using a lot of AI in his video. Maybe that was it. I'm not an AI guy. I'll say that up front.
Right.
I do
I
not.
understand. Yeah.
Do not get
I-
down on AI.
We screwed up a review really bad a couple years ago. It was the band with Dave Vincent from Morbid Angel's band where he wears a top hat or whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Ultimas.
yeah, we were calling him Vlitmas. So we did
Yeah,
that
because of
review
the V instead
because
of
the
the U.
V we just did it phonetically.
And came back. They were like, great review, but it's Ultimus.
It's Ultimas. And I was like, oh God, well, I'm never taking it back now, Posers, But it was a positive review.
That's all that matters, right? Ultimately, the content is what matters. Although I do wish that other guy would have gotten our name right because no one's gonna find us looking for Gaeta, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Usually we get that question a lot. People often ask how the proper way
How do
to
you
say
say
it
it
is.
right?
Yeah, that's usually one of the first questions we get when someone we roll up to a show. They're like, "So you're the guy? Like, how do you say the name?" However you want, man. We
But
appreciate
I
it
love
greatly.
the whole idea behind the name of the band, meaning sorcery, and it being the invocation of angels and demons. Was the name chosen because of an actual fascination with these occult traditions, or did the word itself kind of embody the darkness that you wanted the band to kind of stand for?
So what happened?
So we finally made it into these lifeboats. These things are huge. Like they have to be 70 to 80 of us crammed in there, women and children.
So we were safe at this point?
No, because the boat was on a slant. When they released the airlock, we got caught dangling on the side of the ship. People were screaming, bodies pinned under bodies.
Good Lord, what happened then?
Well, I reached up and, oh, hi.
Hi.
We know you're here for our amazing chat with Matt from Goetia. But just a quick note, we do interviews like this every week on Snaggletooth Decay.
Like our super cool chat going all the way back to season 2 with Gene Hoglan from Dark Angel, where he answers the question, do you like to do the dishes or let them soak? Or our popular chat with King Foley of Deceased, packed with stories like how the owner of Wild Rags Records was arrested while talking on the phone to King.
So don't forget to subscribe today for a bevy of great chats with artists that were never quite the same afterwards. If you think this show is weird, well, you've got a lot of catching up to do. And now, back to Goetia.
It's a little bit of both. I mean, definitely, when we started the band, we all we had a big list of names. We were like, just throw anything in there, then we'll, pick the winners and see what we're feeling. A lot of the stuff I threw in was like occult influence. I knew from the outset we kind of decided this was going to be kind of the theme of the band. I'm pretty fascinated with the occult and spooky stuff. So it definitely was an interest I already had and was some subject matter I was already sort of familiar with. So I threw it in there just thinking like, yeah, this sounds cool. And that was somehow the one that stuck for everybody. We kind of thought that it sounded esoteric enough that it was, you know, embodying the idea and also, you know, 6 letters, real symmetrical, easy enough to say once you know how to pronounce it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we wanted something really succinct, so a nice one word name was really short, sweet, and to the point. So
They're hard to
yeah,
come by these days. It's hard
they
to come up
are.
with a yeah.
Another aspect of that was, of course, we had to consult the metal archives and make sure, you know, we wanted a name that there weren't already like 5 bands running
Uh-huh.
around using. And I remember we had the thought when we wrote down Goetia, it was like, this sounds like a band, like an early, like European 90s band that would have done like one demo and then split up. And
Right.
sure enough, we looked it up and there was a band called Goetia from like somewhere in Europe that did a demo and split up. And I was like, all right, well, there's no current bands listed, so let's run with that. And I think now there's like 4 or 5 Goetias and they're of various genres and whatnot. But at the time, there weren't any listed as being active, so that helped sell it as well. We didn't want to, it's kind of hard to come up with a good name these days. I mean, I really envy the early days of death metal where you could just be like, yeah, we're gonna call the band Death. Like, yeah, that's sick. That sounds awesome. Like
Yeah.
the coolest name. But yeah, now you got to be a little more original now. All
Yeah.
the deaths and deicides and whatnot have been taken. So
Yeah.
Deceased.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Deceased. Yeah, local heroes here.
Yeah.
Deceased.
We used to, one of my favorite, this friend of mine, we used to play this game with Metal Archives. We would try to find, we love pictures where um, one guy didn't dress up. You know what I mean? Like, there's like,
Yeah,
the 3 of the guys are in corpse paint and chains and spikes and everything, and this guy's in a hockey jersey. And they're like, thanks a lot, Mike. Great job. Like, the story, you just try to like write a little narrative under it of what happened. I thought it was
that's
Thursday, like,
that's kind of sick. I mean, unintentional, but I
mhm.
respect it. I mean, that kind of is that's got kind of Goetia energy to it because we I mean, really, we're all into this stuff like thematically, but when it comes to, I'm the only one who really dresses like I'd look like I'm a like spooky guy or whatever. I'm always
Right,
wearing
right.
black, And then you look over at our guitar player, Demir, and he's wearing like a tracksuit, like a red tracksuit. He looks like he's like Van Halen with like a bullet belt. So like when
Yeah.
people see us roll up together, they're just like, this is such a weird crew of people. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they don't look like they should be in the same band.
Well, I think probably the best example of it is the cover for Sabbath Sabotage, where like
Yeah. Yeah.
Ozzy's in the Iommi is sitting down. That's how fucking mad he is. Ozzy's got the boots on, and then the one guy's got like these the red pants, and just like, and then they get that big mirror behind them. It's like that looks like a Spinal Tap story, is what that looks like, you know?
Oh, it totally does. I mean,
I mean, it's a great album, but that
it's a
shoot was
great
a
album.
mess.
I do love that cover for how insane it is, but yeah, I don't know. They look like they just stumbled out of a closet. Like that is a wild cover. Like you didn't want to take one more photo, maybe like you didn't want to give it one more try before that.
Well,
Like, nope,
yeah, yeah.
that's it. Slap it on there.
Well, and also, I mean, you don't have to know anything about Sabbath. You could take one look at that cover and you'd be like, all right, these are the hard years. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, for
Like,
sure. Yeah, definitely that. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So you were saying you were kind of a spooky guy. Have you yourself ever tried to invoke something via Ouija board or seance or another way?
No, I've dabbled in I guess what you call chaos magic a little bit. I mostly, magic to me is a pretty loose loose idea. I mean, I think I don't know. I take kind of like an Alan Moore sort of approach, the comic writer. He's really into, wizardry, the occult. And I think he says something like all art is basically magic, you're putting something out there in the world and it's changing people's opinions and their minds, and that kind of gives you sort of a little bit of a control over reality. And I think that's basically what magic ultimately is. And so everyone, I think, whether they practice it consciously or not, is like kind of putting that out there a little bit. Um, I guess maybe I've done it previously a little more intentionally than that, mostly through like artistic means. But I'm not in here like, summoning spirits or whatever. Um, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna pretend I'm some like, adept practitioner or anything. My girlfriend actually is way more into. It's funny that I'm in this band because she's way more well versed in, you know, the occult and like specifically the Goetia and all the spirits and all that. She's 100 times more knowledgeable about it than I am. So
Yeah.
I'm always writing these songs like, yeah, this is cool. I'm writing about this like spooky cemetery and the spirits. And she's like, yeah, you never need some, real info. Just let me know. I'm like, yeah, but this sounds creepy, right? Like this is cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I, you know, dabble here and there, but mostly it's just like just an interest, Again, I'm not summoning spirits in the bedroom or anything, but
Right. Right.
I've always been like a big horror fan as well. And, there's a huge aspect of that that goes kind of hand in hand with, themes of possession and, the demonic or whatever that,
Yeah.
it's all kind of in there. I mean, we mix in some of that too. I mean, we've written some songs we have a song that's about the Evil Dead, I feel like that's a tried and true death metal tradition at this point. Writing,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to have a song about the Evil Dead.
I remember reading an article, some magazine with Trey from Morbid Angel. It was like early 90s. And nobody was more into Altars of Madness than me, and Blessed are the Sick. I mean, I fucking love those records to this day. But he said that in the late 80s, they got together and they conjured some demons, and the demons told them what to write. And their goal in writing music was just to please the demons that they had summoned. And even as a 19-year-old, I thought, that's a total crock of shit. I don't know what the hell that's all about, but I still like the music. It just
Yeah, I
sounded
mean,
so ridiculous, you know?
It might have involved some substances somewhere. I don't know.
Mm.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
I didn't
yeah,
buy that for
he
a minute. Yeah.
he might have been on something. I mean, if nothing else, I mean, it's good PR. That sounds sick,
Oh,
and I mean
yeah.
it fits the band.
Yeah.
I do I do have to give them. I mean, I'm with you. I I don't think Trey was in there, you know, doing any like great magical workings. I'll put
Right.
it that way. But I will say Morbid Angel is a huge influence for Goetia. That's one band that the three of us all really mesh on. And for me specifically, they were one of those death metal bands that I got into really early that having that occult, like the occult themes just sold it. You know, it sold it the extra mile for me because I was like, man, there's like some real weird stuff in here that I don't really understand. Like I remember listening to altars and then being like, okay, I need to like look into some of this stuff. And that
Yeah.
kind of, you know,
I did
fed
the
into
same thing. Yeah.
yeah, that feeds into the interest of the occult, and then the occult feeds into the interest in like metal, and
Yeah.
it's the same with like I was saying, like horror. Like oh, you see like a movie about like possession, and it's like oh, maybe there's some real stuff in here, and then you read into that, and it's like oh, I see where you know people who like this can get into like you know horror and making movies and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We used to joke around that you know that a band's really got you when they make you break out the encyclopedias. Like, and that's like I did that
yeah,
with like
absolutely,
when I first heard Rush Xanadu, I looked up like Kubla Khan and all that shit, like in the
yeah,
encyclopedia. Like, I mean, you know, that's the total geek out when you're writing down the names of the demons and you're going down and pulling out the encyclopedias, you know.
yeah. I remember Blessed of the Sick had a lot of that where I was like. Man, like what is he talking about here? Because I didn't know, you know, as much about this kind of stuff at the time. And I was like, he's really just getting real specific here about
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, the names of the spirits and like what they're doing. And I really that's my favorite Morbid Angel album. I love that. And I credit them a lot with, you know, kind of the inspiration for doing a band like this is like I want to do an old school death metal band that keeps that like occult theme.
Yeah.
I just I don't know thematically that's what I just want to hear. That's what
Yeah,
makes
and you
it
know,
death
and
metal
that's
to
another thing
me.
is it's true corruption of youth is what it is. They corrupted you is what they did. They made you go look up that shit that you would have never looked up. That's
It is
exactly what
true.
our grandparents were afraid would happen. You know what I mean? Like,
I know
and
as much as I
it
don't want to
happened.
yeah, as much as I don't want to give them the credit, I mean my mother would hate to hear it, but yeah, they were totally like I was like these riffs are sick. This is crazy sounding music and I was like so just hooked. I was like, yes, tell me all about, you know, like give me the I want to know about the Satanism, I want to know about the occult,
Right.
I want to know about the summoning the angels, summoning the demons, like I want to know all this stuff. But I mean, I think the mistake that people make, you know, the satanic panic kind of thing
Right.
is like,
Right.
yeah, I was into all that, but I didn't like, you know, sacrifice a goat or anything. I mean, I'm
Exactly.
vegan. I'm not
Right. No.
I'm not killing any, you know, I'm not making any blood sacrifices or anything. Like I think that most people I would say don't take it as like literally and seriously as it's kind of portrayed, you know. I think it's again similar to horror. I mean, people make horror movies. It doesn't mean they're going out there and murdering people, you know. It's just kind of a fascination, you know. I mean, I think that's what art is really about, you know. People have a fascination with different themes and it's a way to explore that and express that. And I don't think that that's like I'm not worried about the youth getting corrupted by death metal. I don't think that's real.
No.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
it's kind of I remember like some hardcore record I bought in the 80s. I brought it home. It had like some kind of a it was some kind of a flyer about how to do graffiti and how to hide from the cops. And if it didn't make a difference, it wouldn't be illegal, you know. And I remember reading that. I was afraid my parents were going to find me reading it. You know what I mean? Like that was again corrupting the youth, you know.
sounds sick as hell. As someone who also painted many trains in my youth,
Exactly. Yeah.
I relate very much. I had a lot of contraband in my
Yeah.
in the bedroom in my parents' house, but you know,
Yeah.
I think that uh, you know, I was raised in like a Christian household or whatever. My parents weren't like super about it, I guess, but you know, they dragged me to church or whatever, and it's fine. Different strokes for different folks, but I was never that
We always
about it.
say we're Catholic, but we're in recovery.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always found that aspect of it kind of, you know, I guess cathartic in the extreme underground or whatever. Is there's a lot of people who have that same story. You know, they were raised in a religious house and just didn't really jive with it for whatever reason. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of an outlet that's something totally like the inverse of that. And I think a lot of it is just really like the shock of it. I remember hearing a band like Deicide, and I was like, wow, this is music I should not be allowed to listen to. Like, this is
So what? They got a song called "Confessional Rape." Who cares?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like that that stuff I really appreciate just how, you know, now it's not really that extreme, I guess, with, you know, the way the world is in 2026 or whatever. But I remember at the time, young impressionable me was like, oh, like
Yeah.
yeah, songs like
I
Confessional
know.
Rape
Yeah.
or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is crazy. And I mean that,
But you know what's the funny part is that the really bad villains in movies are the ones that quote the Bible. Like that's
oh
when you're
yeah,
like,
of
all right,
course.
this
I
dude's
mean,
off the res. Remember like Cape Fear, how De Niro's walking around quoting the Bible as he's murdering their dog and, sabotaging their house and stuff like that. I mean, that's
oh
so
yeah, of
how
course.
so are you more afraid of the guy that's quoting the Bible or the dude in the deicide shirt? I mean, I'll take the dude in the deicide shirt anytime, right?
I mean, same. Yeah. I mean, that's a, you know, that could be a whole conversation in and of itself, but it's, you know, I mean, just look at, you have to look no further than, you know, the people that run this country to see like
Mm.
the horrible things that are done in the name of like
Oh
the
yeah.
love of Jesus Christ or whatever. It's like, I don't know. I always tell people this is like, I have no beef with Jesus Christ. Like the teachings of Jesus are like the one thing about Christianity where I'm like, yeah, that all sounds fine. It's just like he didn't like banks. Cool. Uh, like spend his time hanging out with like prostitutes and like sick people. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you know, give to the poor. Really all like basic stuff that's like actually he sounded pretty cool. It's just all this like weird mystical like
It's yeah.
okay, now
But
we need to go on a crusade kind of stuff where I'm like,
right,
this
it's
is
what
not it.
humans
Like,
do with the information that screws everything up is what it is. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
now we're, you know, in a country run by a bunch of pedophiles who tell you, like, yeah, you need Jesus. I'm like, man,
And
what are you
baby
talking
oil.
about? Yeah,
I
Jesus and baby oil.
I
That's all you
remember like,
Jesus and baby
I went to
oil.
Catholic school for like 8 years and then somehow I went down this rabbit hole in college where I started reading the Old Testament and I'm like, why didn't they teach us this shit? This stuff's awesome about Leviathan, the giant monster, and
Yeah,
Cain
some
and
real fire and
Abel and
brimstone.
the murderer and the oh my I was like this I would have been all about Catholicism if they had picked the right stories, like Abraham and all that shit. So
I will say Catholics really excel at they really excel at art. Religious iconography is incredibly hard. It's like especially Catholic stuff, like they they revel in suffering. Like it's it's
it's
crazy.
great.
I mean, you want to talk about like blood and guts and all that, like they don't really hold back. Like and I respect that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not really again, I'm not into Catholicism, but religious art is incredible. Like
Oh yeah, totally.
some of the best, I mean, a lot of, you know, the first Goetia EP, you know, that what is that piece called? The Torment of Saint Anthony is what we use for the cover. And it's funny, you know, that was created by someone who was obviously a religiously devout man who was showing like, oh, look at the torment the saint went through. And I'm like, look at the torment the saint went through. These guys are awesome. Like that guy's got a fish head or whatever. It's like,
Yeah, I know
I
it's
think
dark
that's so
stuff.
funny. Like
Yeah.
those people, you know, this was hundreds of years ago. They never could have imagined like the reaction people would have later where they, yeah, all those demons look super cool, man. Like
Yeah,
incredible
that's not
work.
what they were going for originally.
No, no, this is like to honor the Lord or whatever. And I'm like, well, you know, that's the beauty of art. It can have it has drastically different impacts on different people.
Yeah. All right, ask your
So
exorcist question.
to say, at first I was like, DC, a cult. And then I'm like, oh, actual home of the actual Exorcist story.
Yeah.
He always has to go
Yes.
to the stairs.
My brother and I are Exorcist
Got to.
fanatics. So if we hear that one of us had to go to DC, we just say, "Did you stop at the steps?" And they're like, "No, I was too busy. I didn't get
Yeah,
a chance to look at the steps." But the goal is to always look at the steps. So, yeah,
bands come through a lot, and usually bands that haven't been here before, that's one of the first things that they're like,
yeah,
like, can we go to the steps? And like, I think the steps are sick. I again love movies, love The Exorcist, love DC. It's cool that that was filmed here, and I'm always happy to like go by there or take people there. I will say it's a little bit depressing that right now it's like next to a convenience store.
ah,
It's not as spooky when you go over there now, but it's cool. There's a little. I'm
yeah,
sure you've seen. There's a little plaque commemorating everything,
yeah.
and
Oh yeah, yeah.
I uh I really love. Since you brought this up, I'm really glad someone brought this up in an interview because I'm just itching to talk about this. I love The Exorcist, of course, and when it's one of those big like what are movies that take place in DC? The Exorcist comes up all the time. I actually prefer and think that the more DC movie is Exorcist 3.
Yeah.
Have you seen
Well,
that one?
it's
He has
it's
a poster of it on his wall, like this big.
yeah, it's my favorite movie.
Oh yeah.
It's my favorite movie.
That
I'm a total
that
Exorcist
one,
3 guy. Yeah, yeah,
respect. That one to me is, as far as a horror movie goes, is incredible, but also just so much of that, that was also filmed in DC, and I think you actually get to see a lot more of the city in
yeah,
shots of
yeah.
that. Where they're all over Georgetown, and they're talking about like
The
the Gemini
rowing,
killer.
the rowing
Yeah,
team
yeah,
and
it
all that.
opens
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
crew team. You see that still all the time down in Georgetown, and they talk about the Gemini killer being apprehended down in Richmond. It's like they really like it really ties in. Like if you're from the area or like know this area well, it's like there's a lot in there that's super cool to see on a big screen in like a major movie. And of course, aside from that, it's just incredible. George C. Scott, amazing in that movie. Brad
he
Dourif,
is.
like I could go
He
on and on
he
about
is
how
so just
incredible.
full of bluster, and he just if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. Just like I it's my favorite performance ever.
So all three members of you're all veterans of the scene, which probably means you've accumulated a few musical war stories along the way. What are some of the strangest, most disastrous, or just ill-planned, advised projects you've ever been in over the years, and things you knew coming into this band you didn't want to happen again?
Hmm. Thankfully, we don't have anything too terrible in that regard. Um, I think more than having any like, awful experiences previously, we just kind of have been in enough bands that we learned what we liked and what we didn't like. So, like for instance, Demir and I played in a death metal band prior to this for a few years, and a big hang up with doing more with that band was that half the band couldn't really tour.
Hmm.
And that was something we probably should have addressed at the outset because Demir and I got the itch to tour and play out more, and we just wanted to hit new cities and get the music out there. And there's nothing wrong with that not being where everyone's head is at. Like some people don't want to do that, and that's totally fine. But I think we didn't really ever have a discussion about that in a way that kind of worked for everybody. So we were like, oh, we just did we did an EP, and we were like, we should go do a week on the road or something. And it was instantly like, well, we can't do that. Like, okay, well, I have to respect my bandmates' life choices, but also I'm like,
right,
man, but
right.
now that's the main way. I think touring is how you get your music in front of people. That's how people find your band really, and that's how you make like a
Yeah,
lasting impression. So we kind of learned from that, and I remember everything that Goetia has done since our inception has been extremely deliberate because of all the bands that we've been in previously. Like we knew before we even wrote a single song, we had a discussion about like what are the expectations for this band? Like what do you want to get out of it? And it was like we want to tour a lot, want to be pretty prolific, keep recording, keep writing stuff, and just kind of I guess just really go for it, like we don't want to be just a local or regional band. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Tons of great bands that never go on tour. But that's where we were at, and we knew that from the outset. And I think that's more bands should have that kind of conversation because it is those conversations we had at the inception of the band have helped us immensely in the last few years, like when we
Yeah.
when a tour offer, I'm kind of the band dad, I guess. Most of the communication comes through to me. I already know what the other two are going to say generally before I bring them something. Like if I get a tour offer or something, I already know with 99% confidence whether they're going to be down or not. And that is such I guess, a blessing being in a band like this. We don't have to really grapple with like, oh, I'm not really feeling it, or like, I want to
Right.
just kind of stay home a little bit more. Like everyone's on the same page from the outset. So
So is that
that's
kind of that's kind of how you guys chose each other is because you had equal levels of intensity and commitment, I guess.
And drive.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, Demir and I, like I said, we played together in a few bands. I mean, he's one of my closest friends. So we already knew that we worked together really well. And
Yeah.
then really Nadia was like when we were hatching the plan to do a new band in the wake of the projects I mentioned previously, um, she was kind of the one where it was like, you know, we can rope her into this, and I think she'll be on the same band. I mean, she's in a dozen bands, and they're all very active, and
Yeah.
she loves playing death metal. So we were like, I kind of already think we know this is going to be a good fit, and you know, we we had her do a fill-in last show for our old band. So that was the first time we knew her already from her other projects. But that was the first time the three of us played together live, and we started Goetia like a day after that. It was like this is it. We're all on
That's
the same
cool.
page. We need to kind of seize this moment, take advantage of the energy we got here, and like the stars just aligned and got three people on the same page in a way that is really hard to do with bands. And I think that more to your question is like something we've all experienced in the past, people in bands having different expectations or being in different places in their life or,
Yeah.
you know, it's a lot to ask to get in a van and go on tour for 2, 3, 4 weeks or whatever. And thankfully we all decided at the onset we wanted to do that. And so when we're on tour, it's, no one's resentful or angry. No one's like, oh, I got to get back home now. Like I'm tired of being on the road. There's so much other stuff that goes into it, Like there's incredible musicians that for one reason or another don't have the personality or the drive or whatever.
Right.
There's a
Right.
million great guitar players that, you probably never heard of because they haven't put together a band and done anything with it. And there's also terrible musicians that go on tour all the time. It's like there's nothing wrong with that, Like I think especially in the underground, metal and punk and stuff, like you don't have to be exceptionally like I don't know, we don't have to be, Ingve or whatever. Like you just have to have the drive to do it. And if you're about it, like, it's kind of like if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Like if you put in
Consistency
the
is
effort,
really important,
then
you know.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's being in a band is only partially about playing music. It's a complicated relationship you have with other people. And I feel very fortunate that the three of us are able to do this together and make it work being, great friends. Because
It's cool. Yeah.
some people also put together bands where they don't hang out at all outside of, you know, meeting
Yeah,
up
well,
and playing
yeah.
shows. And
I,
that's also totally fine. If it works for you, it works for you.
well, I don't know if I mean, again, I'm not a big fan of their music, but I always bring up the Eagles because they were like incredibly, they were so popular and they were just selling out everywhere. And they would literally like on stage be like, as soon as the song's over, I'm gonna kick your fucking ass. Like they hated
Yeah,
each
they
other
did
so
not
much. They
like
were
each
like
other.
having fist fights backstage. I mean, so there's the other extreme when you're on stage with people that you cannot stand being in the same room with.
Sure. I mean, look at the Misfits, the original Misfits are back
Yeah.
together. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no delusion that, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. Glad they're back together. It's awesome. I have no delusion that Jerry and Glenn are friends outside
Hanging
of
out
this,
together.
Like I don't think that magic is there anymore. Like this is a business venture, and I don't think they really have much of a relationship outside of that. And that's kind of to be expected with all the public feuding and stuff over the
Well, yeah,
years.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I have several Danzig adjacent tattoos, so I mean, I'm dyed in the wool. But I remember when they made the announcement about the one reunion show, and they were going to take your cell phones, and I was like, really? Like, we haven't all heard a shitty version of TV Casualty? Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a weird thing. I remember hearing about that, and I think Danzig has softened on that because I saw Danzig a few years ago, and they were no longer confiscating the cell phones. You take
okay, well,
video and
that's good.
stuff. But yeah, I don't know what that's. I can kind of understand that, I guess, if it's for like the experience, like as a show goer, like it is kind of annoying to see like a sea of cell phones if you're in a big
Well,
arena
yeah,
or something.
yeah, yeah.
But if it's about
I,
vanity or whatever, and it's like, get over it, man. Like you said, I've heard these songs, I've heard good, I've heard bad.
a
Like,
million.
So, for you guys, after releasing kind of EP formats, what made now the right time for your first full length? Was it
it
basically
was
time?
it was kind of just that it was time. It was also so there's kind of a funny story with the timing of the record. Because the record has been a work in progress for a very long time. When we recorded our second EP, the Tomb Essence EP, the LP was actually recorded in that same session. So we did 14 songs, I think, altogether. And then our intention was to release the EP, kind of, I guess, gain a little bit more traction while we shopped around the full length. And so we started working on that, chopping it around, and we got some hits, but it was kind of like it wasn't anybody we were like, all right, this is it. Like we got to do this now. And in the meantime, we had an idea to do a tape for a Halloween show, very, on brand. I was like, let's do 3 songs, release it only at this Halloween show. So then that became the Otherworldly Agency EP, the third one. And we released that, and like the recording of that, because this was the third or fourth time at that point that we recorded with Matt Michael. He's done all our recording. He was really dialed in, and we thought it sounded way better. So I was like, well, shit. Now we got this EP that sounds really killer. We got to go back and make sure the LP sounds better than this. So we did a couple of like overdubs and worked on it some more. I re-recorded the vocals for the entire album. I recorded the vocals for this album twice. And we ended up getting offered a tour with Vastum around that time. I was like, all right, fuck it. Well, we have to have something new. Let's put out the EP for real this time as a 7-inch. And then it was like, okay, well, now we've done 3 EPs back to back, and we've got this LP. Like it needs to come out. Like that's what we were really like, this, it's time. People kept asking us every time we'd see them, like, when is your LP gonna come out? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Because I was like, we already kind of wrote an LP worth of material. We just released it in small formats, little chunks. So we had this kind of sitting on the back burner. And around the time that we did that tour with Bastum was about the time we got linked up with Carbonized. Because, you know, obviously they're from the same area as Bastum. Some of the same folks knew each other. And so us being on the road with them, they were like, we think you'd be a good fit. Did you send this to him? And I was like, yeah, totally. And like, sure enough, as soon as the tour was over, Chad from Carbonized hit us up, and they were kind of our number one pick. I mean, I think he's doing really great stuff with like, I don't think he really does bad releases because he has really good quality control, in my opinion. Like the stuff
Yeah.
he's into. I mean, he's in great bands, so he's really plugged into what's going on. So that was kind of what we were aiming for, and then he hit us up and was like, "Thank God, it's finally going to come out. We can stop answering this question about like, yeah, it's coming, like one
Yeah.
day." And yeah, it was sort of just time, but there was a lot of work behind the scenes kind of going into it, I guess. Like we were again being very deliberate about everything we've done. We wanted to make sure we didn't really want to have like regrets about how the album sounded after it came out. I know that's a common thing for a lot of bands to, push out an album and then feel like, if we had a do-over, I'd do this differently, or,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not happy with some of these songs as much as I would like to be. But for us, we worked on these, they were written really early on in the formation of the band. So we got the chance to play them live a whole lot, and we kind of just really dialed it in. And I think that having the benefit of time it's very good. Like I would rather, generally speaking, I would rather a band take their time and do something they're very proud of than rush to get an album out because like, you know, you're supposed to have an LP or whatever. I
Yeah.
do think for us it was time though. You can't release three EPs in a row and then be like, yeah, let's do a fourth. I
Well,
think
yeah,
that would be pushing it a little bit.
it's funny that you say that because like, all right, so we have two shows. We have the extreme metal show and then we have more of a rock show. And on the rock side, so many bands that we stumble across, they've got this great social media presence and they've got um, these good tours set up and they've got three singles. Like that's much more common in rock now. And I think it's because of the whole, streaming thing or whatever. It's
Sure.
it's really difficult sometimes for me to find three full rock albums to review for the other show, as opposed to in the extreme side, it's much more consistent. It's full length, full length, full length, full length. Like it's physical copies. It seems like yeah, but in basically rock and roll is so screwed up right now because of Spotify and streaming and everything else that these bands
Sure,
feel like they
sure.
have to go out and have their
And the ADDness of
well,
today's
and they
attention
basically
span.
to get on a label, they
Yeah.
want you to have all your shit done. They don't want to do anything for you. They want to make sure that you have all your socials are you got 1.5 million followers on all the platforms. You got your image worked out and everything, and then they might think about giving you a deal. It's just very different in the world of rock in 2026. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the underground, the underground's always been a little bit different because there's more DIY aspect to it. Like,
hmm
bands are putting out albums so that they can tour on them, and that's how an underground band is going to get to an audience. Is there's not going to be some big, DreamWorks is not going to come in and be like, yeah, band with 2,000 followers, like let's sign this band and
right,
you
yeah,
know do a big PR campaign. It's like you're going to put out an album on an independent DIY label, often that one of the band members runs. I
right,
mean, our
yeah,
our third EP was the 7-inch that we did. I mean, I that was my label. I paid for that and put it out. And that's been the case with many bands that I've been in over the years.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that pushes bands to do a good job in terms of like, quality control. And it's also just a difference in attitude and approach. You're not gonna get rich playing a death metal. I hate to break it to anybody out there who
Yeah.
thinks you
Many
will,
have
but
tried.
yeah, many have tried. Few have succeeded. I mean, even if you look at the biggest death metal bands of all time, it's like those
I
are
think
still
I
just
think
guys.
Cannibal has succeeded.
I mean, they've definitely succeeded. The thing is, there's such a cap with underground music that, yeah, Cannibal Corpse, biggest death metal band of all time. That they're not a household name. My parents don't know who the fuck Cannibal Corpse is. At best, people know them as the band that was in Ace Ventura, and
There it is. That's
that's
Yeah.
if they were really paying attention.
right.
'Cause, like,
That's
at
right.
least when I watch that with my family or whatever, I can be like, I actually that's a real band, and I listen to that, and they're like, this is horrible. Like, why would you listen to
That's
this? Like,
right.
But yeah, I mean, they props to them, incredible band, and they really did the thing. But there's a cap to how big the underground is gonna
Yeah.
ever be, I think, and I kind of like that. It's it's a niche thing.
I can't tell you how many times we'll be looking at a new band and we're reviewing or whatever, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the drummer for the band that we interviewed last month. And so the joke is there's 100 people in the underground.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's exceptionally true in like local scenes. Like I know here in DC, like the same like 20 people max are playing in like
Right.
all the bands. Like, I mean, if you look at Naughty is in like a dozen bands at this point, and it's just like Demir and I both had periods in our life where it was like that. I mean, I'm thankfully I've shaved it down to two, but for most people here, especially drummers, like drummers are so in demand. Like
Oh
every
yeah.
drummer I know is in like six bands, and
Wow. Yeah.
they're always getting asked if they want to do more. So
Yeah.
it's definitely it's a small world. It's even smaller when you're into something
Mhm.
weird like extreme metal.
Yeah.
I love the cover art for this one. It has a very campy B horror movie feel. Was it inspired like to give like the impression of a certain era or a certain type of movie?
Not particularly, to be honest. It was mostly so the album art was the last thing to happen for the album, and it was very much I don't want to call it an afterthought because we put a lot of thought into it. But basically when we pitched this album to the label, it had cover art that was really similar to the EPs. It was some, engraving from a few hundred years ago. And I was like, this will work. This fits the vibe, whatever. And once we got on the label, he was like, I can give you a budget. We can hire someone. You get something custom, really push the theme. And I was like, oh, like, okay. Like, well, we got to take advantage of that. So, Chris Taylor, who did this artwork, was our first pick. Thankfully, with help from Carbonize, we were able to get him. And we didn't really give him a strong, like, brief, I guess. Uh, I was already familiar with his work and I was like, it already looks pretty creepy. Like, you kind of do something similar to your other album covers, like, will be cool. I just told him, I was like, basically, the whole thing is inspired by this local cemetery. Like, I want that incorporated into the artwork, like even if it's just like creepy guy in a cemetery. And I mean, ultimately, that is what he made. It's like we didn't give him a lot of direction about how it should specifically look or feel. That was really all Chris. I guess we just picked the right guy, but yeah, we wanted it to have the feel of like a you know spooky horror movie kind of vibe, but we didn't really give him the big rundown. Um, I give him, for all the credit for that artwork. I mean, I couldn't be happier with what he ended up doing, but it was not some really well thought out idea that we were like, yeah, it's got to be this creepy looking kid in the cemetery or whatever. Like he just he listened to the album a lot and he nailed it. Um,
Yeah. It's
it
good.
does. I don't think that the horror movie thing was very intentional. I think that's something he kind of interpreted that was just a good. I think he sort of gets what the band is doing. I mean, he was his band Page 99 and us were, briefly label mates. Our first EP came out on Persistent Vision. So I guess he was kind of familiar with us a little bit beforehand. Like we talked and stuff. Um, I think he just really picked up on it well. I mean, he's a great artist. He's done some of my favorite album covers of all time, and I feel like we were really lucky to get him. And it's because of stuff like this. Like I didn't want to have to hold someone's hand through the art process. It's also kind of
Yeah.
nice too, because generally I'm kind of the art director in the band. Like I'm the one finding, you know, old artwork or like I'm usually the one commissioning someone or creating something and having it. kind of be out of my hands with a fresh set of eyes is really nice because we worked, like I said, we worked on this album for so long. I was kind of like, all right, let's see what someone else interprets this as. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's 10 songs about a cemetery, about death, creepy stuff. We're not exactly thematically breaking new ground there. Like, but I like that. I mean, I like the death metal and grindcore and all that. It has like its themes and it sticks to them. Like it's
Yeah.
that's part of the draw. Like I was mentioning earlier, you're into the creepy stuff, then you hear music that sounds like this. It's like I don't know why, but this makes sense together. Like it's evil sounding music.
Well, I mean, the black, white, and red is always going to get extra glances from me because of the, you know, blasphemy and Archcode and Black Witchery. Those classic album covers. Like, so you just do those three colors. I'm gonna give you an extra couple of spins just for that.
Yeah, I mean it's a classic color combination. I mean, you could throw up a board of like 1,000 albums that have, you
Those three
know,
colors.
w
Yeah.
yeah, black background, white image, red logo, and they probably all look sick.
Yeah.
I think the one of the things I like the most about the artwork that this was totally his decision. He did kind of like an anaglyph 3D sort of thing with like the got like the chromatic aberration a little bit where it kind of looks like you're looking at a fucked up like a cathode ray TV.
Right.
And I that's crazy to me that he came up with that because I love that aesthetic and I didn't give him that to go on at all. Like
Yeah.
I I don't know where he got that from, but again, great job. I mean, nailed it. I think that's one of the cooler aspects of it is that like kind of fucked up aberration in the colors there.
Yeah.
You have a long history of doing pulling double duty as bassist and vocalist. Do you think that it's kind of secondhand nature to you now, or did it take you a while to develop the skill to do both at once?
That was very, very hard when we started this band because prior to doing this band, so primarily being in bands over the years, I've been a vocalist first, and I sort of took up playing the bass. I played bass on and off for fun over the years. Was never really in a band until Demir and I started jamming together. They needed a bass player for that other death metal project we used to do. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Why not? I did some vocals in that band, and that was few and far between because it was extremely difficult for me to do. Um, I knew for sure I wanted to do vocals in this band, and we figured if I still kept playing the bass, it would be a leaner outfit. It's one less person that we have to find. It's one less person who has to get on the same page, which again, that was a big thing for us. I was
Right.
like, I basically learned how to do it for this band. And to this day, I honestly still can't tell you how I pulled that off because I'm not some virtuoso bass player. Like playing music does not. I'm not. I'm in a band with two people who teach music and they understand like theory and everything very well, and I'm just like you know uh, hit string hard, vibrates, makes noise. Like that's it. Um, so learning to do double duty like that was it definitely did not come very naturally to me. But I wanted to make it happen, so I practiced it a lot. Like I also figured, you know, uh, plenty of great death metal bands have had the bassist vocalist combo. So I was also kind of influenced by that, like to persevere and try to figure it out. Because yeah,
Right.
first few shows, especially because never done it, never done double duty like that live prior, and a little nerve wracking. New
Yeah.
band doing double duty like this for a whole set, like a little daunting. But
Yeah.
I mean, now Now it's very comfortable for me and it's a lot of fun. Like I can't imagine just doing vocals in this band. Like it's I like doing double duty. And I think it's also cool to be a three piece, like and have such a lean lineup making a lot of sounds. Like I always appreciate seeing like a power trio band because I'm like, man, three people
Yeah.
are making this much noise. Like that's cool.
Yeah, it's
It's a
cool.
very lean lineup. And yeah, we kind of learned it out of necessity, I guess, to answer your question. It did definitely not come naturally to me at all.
All right, I had a few track specific questions. Corpse candles. I love the idea. It's kind of like ghost light folklore of some sort. It seems like it's kind of the story of that they're said to beckon or guide the living towards the grave. I don't know who's supposed to be lighting the candles, but what do you think makes the image of holding that solitary light and appearing in the darkness so unnerving?
I think it's just the idea of seeing like knowing the unnaturalness of that, like not like say you're alone in a cemetery perhaps, and knowing there's no one around and seeing a light is just, lights aren't something that really happen in nature by themselves. I mean, with exceptions, there's like bioluminescence and like, there's I guess the real scientific explanation behind a lot of this is like the will o' the wisp, the like, ghost lights, which I guess are, natural anomalies like ball lightning or something. There's always some kind of explanation, but when you're alone at night and you see that, that's not what your brain is thinking. You're like, I'm alone out here. Like, there is no one near me. Where's this coming from? Like, things don't just spontaneously burst into flame. So
Right.
I think it's just like a very unnatural occurrence. Like, barring a lightning strike, things don't just start burning out of nowhere.
Right.
And, I grew up in I spent a lot of time when I was a kid with my parents both worked a ton. So for the summer, they would just ship me off to my grandparents who lived in the middle of nowhere. It was a very wooded area, very secluded. And, I've seen the will o' the wisp stuff a million times, between that and like, fireflies. You'd see all kinds of weird stuff out there. And that was kind of the inspiration for that was, having seen just unexplained lights. And then I read about how common a phenomena this is like across different cultures and things. Like there's names for these and uh all kinds of cultures have them. There's the will o' the wisp. In Japan they call it a kitsunebe, which is like a, said to be like a light from a spirit. It's kind of weird to me that all these different cultures that don't really necessarily cross paths have this
Yeah.
similar folklore surrounding like a ghost light or someone guiding you in the darkness that isn't there.
I really like the video for that one as well. Did you select kind of the old stock horror footage to be put in, or did you have someone kind of go through the archives and select stuff for you?
Yeah, we picked that. We we initially that wasn't in the original concept because our I think the first video we ever did uh was just us playing live and we were like, we need to spruce this up, get some old horror movie footage, put it in there. Um and we actually had like a full narrative thing planned with that video because the Mortuary Cult and Corpse Candle videos were filmed back to back to be one long video, like 7 minutes or whatever. And there was a whole narrative arc that was going to go through that, and a lot of the footage. So initially, it was going to be us. We were going to be leading this guy into like the secluded room, and there was going to be like an altar with candles, and we were going to like slit his throat, sacrifice him, typical creepy metal stuff. And a lot of the footage that we got just looked so silly. Like it just wasn't. it wasn't there. We were thinking when we were filming it, it was like, man, I don't know if we're really selling this because we're not actors, and we just got a random friend of ours to be like the victim or whatever. And he was like, man, I don't know. I think this looks kind of goofy, but let's try it. And when we put it together, we were like, oh, this is not it. Like this is not having the intended effect. And so, kind of last minute, we pivoted. And I was like, what if we did the concept of the first video, but just better? Like, what if we just kind of like we're a little more deliberate in our selection? So yeah, Demir and I sat down and went through a big, big list of movies and just kind of like he'd watch some, I'd watch some, and we just kind of picked out the parts that we thought were like suitably on brand and creepy enough. The big one was really that what is it? Why can I not think of the name now? The Vincent Price movie, House on Haunted Hill.
Oh yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the big one where, we got the skeleton. I thought that was the one where I was like, all right, let's pick this skeleton footage from this because I love that scene in that movie so much where the skeleton rises up out of the acid at the end, and I was like that just looks so cool, and that image of like a skeleton kind of coming after someone, I was like that fits the brand of that's on brand. That fits the theme of the song really well. So from
Yeah.
there, it was just kind of like sprinkling in other spooky bits.
I also noticed in that live performance shots how long the guitar strings off Demir's on his headstock are. Has he ever
Oh
killed
my
himself with
God.
that? He looks like the only other person is Pat Raniere from Hell Witch does that too. And I'm like,
This
he's gonna hurt himself.
This is such a pet peeve of mine. I tell him every show, I'm like, man, cut your strings because he'll be warming up next to me, like poking me, and I'm like, man, you go put somebody's eye out, trim those things. He's like, no, man, it looks sick. I don't need to cut my strings. So, like, it's kind of I guess it's kind of a signature thing for him at this point. He never cuts his strings. I don't know where that came from either. He used to cut his strings. Like, this was definitely something that developed. In Goetia, he started specifically playing with a Floyd Rose a lot, and he stopped cutting his strings. I think I don't want to speak for him, but I think he thinks it looks badass, which it kind of does. But yeah, whenever I'm standing next to him, man, get that out of here. You're gonna put
It's
somebody's
a little
eye out.
lethal.
Yeah, so of course in the video he had him going too, and at this point I just think it's kind of funny. I'm really happy that you brought that up because I give him shit for that all the time. And he's always like, "What? I don't need to cut him." So I'm gonna show him this, and
Yeah.
I'll report back if he starts
Okay.
cutting his
Yeah.
strings or not. He won't, but yeah, it's an aesthetic choice for sure, I think.
Tell him him and Pat Raniere from Hell Witch because he does the same thing. I also love post-human execution, which immediately we do this little trivia bit in our show, and I had this trivia question based on this. It was called the Cadaver Synod of the year 897. And they had this pope, and he died. And then they decided after he died, the next pope wanted to prove that he was a horrible pope and remove his papacy. So they dug him up and put him on trial.
That's right.
On trial. This was a real thing. And then afterwards, they threw him in the Tigris River. So that,
Oh
that
yeah.
totally made me think of that. Was this one kind of inspired by something like that? Or are we talking about like killing an undead corpse or more or less corpse abuse, I guess?
I guess.
It was definitely the former. It was I was reading about, I don't remember how I found out about this initially. I guess like I said, most of the album is kind of inspired by a cemetery that I used to live by. So at the time, I was just reading a lot about cemeteries and their history, and along with that, you get into like execution methods and just other macabre stuff. And uh, posthumous execution, I was like, "What? You can't kill someone who's already dead. What is this?" And that's when I read about the Pope that you just mentioned for sure was one of them. And there's just apparently it was a pretty common thing to basically just like if you didn't agree with someone or you wanted like it's basically like condoned like corpse defilement. Like you can just dig somebody up and be like, yeah, actually they never got punished for this crime, so we're just gonna beat their corpse, I guess, or like, dismembering corpses, or there's even
Yeah.
there's a really funny instance of this, funny. I use that term very, very loosely here.
Right.
I
Right.
don't know who this was done to, but there was a guy who was posthumously executed, and the way that they did it was they dug up his entire coffin and they put him on trial. He was guilty for whatever it was. So they hung the coffin. Like they hung his coffin in the gallows. And like what that doesn't even do anything. It's like you're just totally trashing this dead yet. Like that's why I got the
Wow.
line there's a line in that song, uh the dead have no recourse, because I was reading about this stuff and I was like, man, this is so messed up that it became commonplace for people to just like dig up people's bodies and basically dismember and like abuse them because of some weird perceived slight. And it's just all for show. It's like,
Or they
like you
had a
said,
lot back then where they would think for some reason that this person was going to become the undead or a vampire, so they made sure that wasn't going to happen.
sure, yeah, yeah. And I mean that I think that is really fascinating to me. Different cultures have like, folklore myths about like the undead. One of our earliest songs, Noxer, was about, there's an idea of like a German folklore creature, comes back from the dead. He's basically like a revenant or whatever. But then with like people being posthumously executed, it's like a political thing basically. Like it's not even people worried about like a vampire coming back from the grave or something. It's just like, yeah, that guy, he sucks. Like, dig him up, guillotine him again. Why not? Like, put him on
Wow.
display. Hang. You've seen like the medieval images of like people hanging in like cages and just like skeletal bodies. Like, I don't really understand. I guess there wasn't a whole lot going on at the time.
Yeah.
People had to get really creative with how they
So much
were.
work. Now you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
nowadays you just dig up an old racist rant, put it out there, and cancel them. Like you don't have to do any of
Yeah.
that
I
work
mean,
now. So,
people make it awfully easy by oversharing
that's
uh,
right.
they overshare their inside thoughts on the
That's right.
internet. I mean, yeah, maybe if you're gonna say abysmal things, you should probably keep them to yourself, or at the
That's
very
right.
least,
That's
if you're
right.
gonna say them, you should own up to them. Don't act surprised when someone digs it up and
Right.
uh,
Hmm.
throws it back in your face. But yeah,
Yeah.
posthumous execution is, yeah, that is a wild thing to ever have happened. And thankfully, I mean, I guess some places still practice this. I mean, there's reports of this happening like in the last like 100 years or so, and
Really. Wow.
I'm not
Too much
really sure
work.
what people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems very high effort
Yeah.
to abuse a corpse. I mean, I'm sure the corpse doesn't care. I mean,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
it's a lot of effort for someone who really doesn't give a shit, but whatever.
I loved the guitar leads throughout, and there were times when I was listening, it almost sounded like harmonies. Do you achieve that through like a pedal or two guitar tracks? Or am I completely in left field?
Two guitar tracks. Yeah, Demir. We only have one guitar player, of course, so
Yeah.
Demir records all the guitars. But yeah, he wrote some harmonies where he harmonizes with himself. He just did a second track. Uh, playing those songs live, it sounds a little bit different. Obviously, we do not have two guitars to do the harmonies, but he pulls it off reasonably well. But I do, I do really like the way that sounds on the record. I wish we had a little Demir clone that we could bring out on stage with us to do those harmonies, because I really like the way they sound. But yeah, it's just two guitar two guitar tracks. There was a lot of like multi-tracking on the album to get, that intended effect. Like in some parts, uh, there's even like some synth stuff to kind of add like a little bit extra to some of the more open, airy bass parts. Like I know the Earth Inferno, we dubbed in some like synths to kind of make it sound a little bigger. But yeah, lots of layering and multiple tracks on that.
Sounds really good.
Well,
And
thank
then
you.
also the for the Mortuary Cult video, the shots of the hands being sliced and then joining together, did you have to kind of create those special effects or was it kind of found footage?
Yeah, that was us. That was actually, yeah, we're the ones in the video, cutting our hands, holding hands. That was the idea of our buddy Frank who filmed the video. We kind of gave him free reign to come up with like I guess like a script or what he felt like the narrative should be. And that was one of the parts that was left over from the aforementioned narrative of the video. I was like, well, these shots, these look cool. We can keep these in. The rest didn't work out so well. But yeah, he had an old dull knife and he had some fake blood, so he put fake blood in our hands and he showed us, he was like, look, just just be careful and it won't cut you. And I was like, I don't know, man. Like we couldn't have gotten a prop knife or something. Like, why are we using a real knife for this? I mean, even if it's dull, this seems like one of us is going to hurt ourselves because we did so many takes of that too because it looked so unconvincing at first. We were just like, it looks really fake. And he was like, no, sell it like you're cutting your hand. I was like, I feel like I'm going to
Sell
cut my
it.
hand open if I do
That's
this.
great.
But yeah, thankfully we escaped unscathed. But yeah, that is an actual knife that we are trying very hard in the video not to cut our hands with. So I guess we sold it per the director's orders, but I was not happy about using
I
a
guess
real
not.
knife instead of a
Right.
prop.
Did you use store-bought fake blood or did you make it?
No, it was a it was a DIY recipe. I believe it's chocolate syrup and red food coloring. Is that what they say that they use in Scream? I know there's a joke in at the
Yeah, I
end
heard
of
that.
Scream
Yeah,
where he
I heard
talks
that
about like,
in the
oh,
movie.
red food dye or what. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
we used a recipe similar to that. So I've done that there's a few videos that Frank has done for us. I think the Naturum de Monto video also I had some like fake blood on me. And there was a scene in that one where he was like, I'll just, put some in your mouth and like spit it out. And I was like, man, this tastes like really good. What is this stuff? He's like, oh, it's chocolate syrup, red food coloring. He's like, who knew? Very, very
who
convincing.
knew?
I mean,
Right.
has the right consistency. So my man knows how to direct, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Movie
back in the
magic.
day, a lot of black and white, they used chocolate syrup, which of course got ruined for the advent of color film. It
Yeah.
wasn't
Right.
kind of the same, but it worked great.
Sure. I mean, in black and white, it looks great. It's got heavy
Oh yeah.
contrast. It's the right viscosity, kind of flows like blood.
Yeah.
Movie magic.
I also liked Eternal Champagne, and like you were saying, the guitars really layer up and become almost echo-filled and dreamlike. Why did you pick that feel for that particular track? Did you want it to feel more atmospheric and otherworldly than the rest of the album?
Yeah, we knew that one was going to be the closer pretty early on. There were two tracks that we knew very early on where they were going to go, and that's the closer of side A and the closer of side B. They're the more like, I guess, kind of doomier, more epic, longer tracks. So we knew we wanted it to have a bit of a different feel. Um, so yeah, the decision to make it kind of sound bigger and a little bit, I don't know, it's not really like ambient, but we wanted it to have an otherworldly feel because that was supposed to be the big finish for the album, plus like the feeling, Eternal Samhain kind of like going into, the theme of the album. It's all about, experiences in a cemetery, but the kind of feeling at the end was supposed to be like getting carried off into like, you know, the realm of forever or whatever you want to call it, like getting dragged off, Halloween nights, Samhain, Samhain, however you want to say it. It's the night when the veil's supposed to be thinnest between this world and the next. And I was like, that's that's the night you get taken, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Oh yeah.
if you're gonna cross through the door, that's it. So we wanted to have that like otherworldly feel a little bit as much as possible. So we put a lot of well, I should say Demir put a lot of thought into how he was going to tackle the guitars for that because he wanted it. He was very specific about how he wanted that to sound with the harmonies and everything. So it was a very conscious decision early on. I think he probably wrote I don't recall, but I think he wrote those harmonies before he like fleshed out the rest of the song. Like he knew he wanted to have that at the end, which I thought it was great because I already knew where I wanted to go with it lyrically. I was like, this is perfect. It sounds spooky. So like I don't even have to like, you know, bend the theme of the song at all. Like it was kind of locked in from the get-go, which I really appreciated.
And Bestial Tomb was one of my favorites. I love kind of that wah-filled solo. But also the bird at the end. Is that like a loon or a cuckoo? And did you record that?
It's a barred owl, and I
Wow.
I recorded it, yes. At
Cool.
my grandparents' place that I mentioned earlier. I went out there with my girlfriend one night a few years ago, and like I said, there's nothing around. It's pitch black. So um, I like to go out there and just enjoy the fact that there's no light pollution. You go out at like, 1 or 2 in the morning, it's pitch black. You can see all the stars. It's really awesome. But there was one night we were out there and you can hear the cicadas in there too, but then those owls started going crazy. I was like, I have to record this. This is like, this never happens. Like I
Hmm.
hear them every once in a while, but that night, I don't know what was going on, but they were in a real cacophony with each other. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, I'm so happy that that made the record because I didn't record that, intentionally for the album. I didn't know it was going to happen. I was just out there hanging out, and I was like, this really fits with what this song is about. So
Yeah.
very serendipitous. And I'm really glad that Matt Michael was able to make that recording work too, because like I said, I was just out there hanging out. So I pulled out my phone real quick and was like, all right, hit record. And didn't think that it sounded good enough to go on a record. I was like, I don't know if he's going to be able to use this, but he worked his studio magic and really
Yeah.
pulled those sounds out of there, which I don't know how he did it, but it sounds great. He got it really nice and clear. But yes, barred owls,
Wow.
Hmm.
It's
they
so
have that
creepy.
really, yeah, they got that really distinctive call. There's some around here too. Like I hear them around like the DC suburbs a lot, but obviously big city. There's not. I never hear them going crazy like that, but they make a really beautiful sound. They're really, spooky birds.
Wow. I'd hate to have one of them going off in a tree while you're trying to sleep. Good Lord.
There was a there was a house that I used to live in right outside DC in Alexandria, Virginia. That in that neighborhood there was a family of barred owls, and whenever sometimes I have bands come stay with me after they play a show or whatever. I always have to warn them like, hey, in the middle of the night, you're gonna get freaked out. I'm sorry, like because what they'd land on the roof of the house and they'd start making that sound, and it's just like was a really tiny old house, so it just like echoed through there. And I was like, it's just owls, but
Wow.
it's really, I mean, I loved it because I, I thought it was awesome to just see them up close and
Yeah.
hear that call and stuff. But yeah, I had to warn people like in the middle of the night, you're probably gonna get woken up by a bunch of birds
Viable.
going crazy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies in advance.
Yeah, I also love your for Earth Inferno when I first kind of started with that Doomier, I'm like, they're finally giving their drummer a break, but it goes right in the blast beat levels.
Yeah, she starts blasting immediately.
It's like, oh. Do you have to like get at shows supply Gatorade or coffee or massages? I mean, how do you keep that level up?
I don't really know how she does. I mean, there are copious amounts of like Gator Light or Pedialyte consumed after the set because we're all sweating like crazy, especially her. But I mean, she's the youngest member of the band and also the most adamant about. She practices every day. Like she's constantly grinding away. Uh, she's built different. I don't know. I mean, she's
Yeah.
10 years younger than I am, so
It's
she's got
youth,
a
right?
bit more youthful energy to draw on. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a lot of that is just she just practices a lot and has built up insane stamina. It also doesn't hurt that the we practice in a storage unit in DC, um, and it is hot as hell in there. It's not climate controlled at all, and it's in this like sub level where whatever the temperature is outside is probably like 10 degrees hotter in that room. So she's
Oh
just in there
wow.
in the middle of summer and like 110 degrees
Oh my
blasting
gosh.
away.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess she's just powered through it enough that when we play a show, she's like, at least it's not as hot as it is in the storage space.
Yeah.
But, just a lot of practice, a lot of stamina build up.
Yeah. Well, we play a game on the show. I think you'll like it. It's called Blaspheming Monikers. Okay. So the way it works is I have 5 band names on this envelope. One of them is not real. So we're going to see if you can guess which one of these is a fake band. Okay.
All right.
Okay. And we'll just keep going until either you guess it or we run out of bands. So use these actually. Okay.
All right.
All right. Anima Mortalis, Casket Snack, Saint Lockjaw, Witch Horns, or Graven Images.
Well, this is gonna be a hard game. These all sound like they could be bands. Uh Read them off to me one more time.
Yeah,
What
one
was
more
that
time. All right.
first one?
Sure. Anima Mortalis, Casket Snack, Saint Lockjaw, Witch Horns, Graven Images.
I'm leaning I feel like this is gonna be a band, but I'm leaning towards Casket Snack being the fake one. But I feel like that's probably actually a band.
So you're going with
That's
Casket Snack?
I'm going with Caskets.
All right. Now they're death metal from Colorado, and
Oh
they have
my
a
God.
brand new full length that just came out, but I have not heard them. So all
I
right. So
guess
that
I
leaves
gotta
Anima Mortalis, Saint Lockjaw, Witch Horns, and Graven Images.
all right. My second guess would be Saint Lockjaw.
It's a terrible name, but they are a real band.
That's what I'm saying is every time I hear something like this, I'm like, I
Yeah, they're
feel like that should be the fake one.
stoner metal from Norway, which you don't hear about that very often.
Wow.
And yeah,
No,
there's not
that's
much of that. Yeah.
that's pretty out there.
It sounds like a He-Man character or something, like it's just terrible. So,
That
all
does
right, so
sound like a He-Man character.
one more time. Anima Mortalis, Witch Horns, and Graven Images.
This one's a total toss-up for me at this point. Graven Images, perhaps?
No, they're deathcore from Rialto,
Ooh,
California. They have 2 EPs. Now, the one I made up was Witch Horns. There's no band called Witch Horns.
that's crazy to me. That one sounds like that should totally be a band.
I know
I
it
can't
made me
believe
think of
that's the
it made me
one.
think of Maleficent. Maleficent because she had
Yeah,
horns.
yeah.
No,
Which
I
one's
I I googled the
that
hell
would have
out
been
of
the
it.
last one that I guessed.
So I'm going to get a patch that says Witch Horns. Yeah, yeah, from my
If
denim
I saw
jacket.
that, I'd be like, yeah, totally, that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, like it could be on like 20 bucks spin or something. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly, yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
I would assume that's a band way quicker than Saint Lockjaw.
Yeah. Oh,
But
and then the other one was what's the other one? Anima Mortalis is death metal from El Salvador. They have 1 EP and 2 singles.
okay,
So yeah. So
sick. All
anyway,
right.
so yeah, this was a good one. Yeah, Witch Horns. Yeah, so that's available, public domain, people. you know.
Yeah, someone watching this start a band called Witchhorns because
Which ones? Yeah.
that is definitely the one where I was like, that's got to be a band. That's screams like death, doom, like that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, someone's got to put that to use. That's a good one.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
So it looks like you have a run of West Coast shows coming up, along with a Mexican show too.
That's cool.
Are there any songs that fans absolutely need or request you to play live? Something that would cause uproar if it wasn't in the set list.
I don't know if there's anything. I don't know if we're at that level yet where someone's like, "Oh man, they didn't play XYZ or whatever."
Right, right. Your Ace of
Especially with
Spades.
this. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. With the album being, so new as well. Like, I will say there's some that get mentioned in pretty much every mention or review of the album that have kind of swayed the set list a little bit because we just toured the East Coast maybe like a month or so ago, and we're definitely doing a different set list. A lot of the same tracks since we're promoting the record, but there's some cuts that we didn't play on that run that we're definitely playing on the West Coast run. I know for sure Tortures in Time is being worked in the set list because a lot of people have mentioned they like that one. I mean, that makes sense to me. That was intentionally written to be like our grooviest, like most like catchy
Yeah.
carcass style like song. And it's a lot of fun to play live. I'm kind of bummed we didn't play it live more leading up to this point, but we played it live when we were working on the record, and since then it's kind of been out of the set list. But that one for sure is coming back. I know a lot of people like that one. Um, other than that, I don't think there's anything that the people are really demanding, and if they are, they haven't told me. But that one, that one for sure is coming in there. We did end up playing. We started playing Bestial Tomb right before that last tour, specifically because several of our friends were like, "That's the coolest song on the record," and I was like, "Well, that's my personal favorite on the record," and so we were like, "Well, I guess we need to work this into the set list," and that was decided maybe like a week before we hit the road. We were like, "Let's swap out one of these other songs and play that." So we'll probably keep that one in. That seems to be that's a really fun song to play live too. So.
And do you have any spots that you're especially looking forward to play, that maybe a venue that you love or a place you haven't played before?
Well, most of these, we've toured the Southwest very briefly before, but most of these cities are new to us. So I personally am very excited for like really the whole run because there's a lot of places that we've never played. A lot of places, like I haven't been to the Northwest since I was a child. So going back to like Seattle and Portland and all that, that's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, we're doing the tour starts off in Vancouver. Never been out there. Very excited for that one. And of course, uh, Tijuana. Never played a show with Goetia in Mexico, even if it's right across the border. That should be a lot of fun. And I'm about to show my poserdom here for a second, but I was not very familiar with this place, but Demir was instantly because he's a mega thrash head. Uh, we are playing the recently reopened, I believe it's the Mojave Gardens is the venue, and I was not aware that this place is extremely legendary in the thrash scene. Um, but yeah, I looked into that. I didn't know that that was a recently reopened thing for this legendary venue. Um, Excited to play there. Kind of bummed we couldn't. At one point, we were talking about playing a show at Gilman Street, which has long been a dream of mine. Some of my favorite bands were, early Gilman Street underground bands. But that didn't pan out, unfortunately. So maybe one day. But There's a couple places too that we have played before that I like. I'm very excited to go back to San Diego. Last time we were in San Diego, we had a really amazing time. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there. Um, just really, I'm just excited for the whole thing. I'm excited to play more shows. I'm excited to, get the album in front of new people, and it's kind of fun too because we've done a bunch of DIY touring, and people come see us. They don't know who we are, but this is probably the first tour where people from places we've never been are like, "Oh, that's awesome! You're coming here." And I'm like, how
That's
you know
cool.
who we are? Like
Right.
that's
Right.
super cool. Extremely grateful for that. Um, we also are linking up with some bands that I really love, like the bands that we were able to get on this tour. Really sick. I love Degraved, their album from last year. Really sick. Same with Cartilage. Great band. Believe they have a record coming out right before this tour. So I think it's going to be a good time all in. Like,
If you could have your band open up for any band in the past or current, no holds barred, who would you pick?
no holds bar. Oh my God. I mean, tough question, I guess, but I'm gonna go with a very obvious answer. I'd pick Morbid Angel
No, there we
because
go
like
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that feels like that for Goetia, that would feel like that's the most logical choice, even if it's very obvious. I know that will likely never happen at this point. At least not. I will say I would want to open for
Yeah.
Vincent era Morbid Angel. Not that I have anything against Tucker era. It's also great. Seen them with both. Both were sick, but yeah, Vincent era Morbid Angel would probably be my pick. But if I need a less obvious one, then Angel Corpse. Angel
Oh.
Corpse is another really big band for all three of us. Like there's a lot of listening to Angel Corpse in the van.
Well, we hope to catch you out there maybe if you play Baltimore in the future, or maybe you play Maryland Death Fest. Who knows? We're there every year, of
Yeah.
course.
That's right. Yeah. So.
Hopefully, I mean, we would love to. We played a few years ago, but we were on the small stage. We played at Angels one night,
Grotto.
which
Oh
was
yeah. Okay.
still a lot of fun. I mean, I'm very grateful that MDF is kind of in our backyard. Um, this lineup for next year looks extremely good.
Yeah.
Whether
Keeps
we
getting
play
better.
or not, yeah,
Yeah.
whether we play or not, I will be in attendance.
Yeah.
Um, it looks really good. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll see us. We being a DC band, Baltimore is, basically right up the street. So we've played Baltimore many a time, and surely that will continue.
The Sounds of Decay!
Okay, Sounds of Decay 1 is the new album from Megascavenger, Toxic Noxious Undeath. It's kind of fallen to the wayside, but there was a time when movies like The Toxic Avenger were sweeping the nation. It offered us the suggestion that the only accurate way to achieve superpowers is to fall into a vat of toxic waste. I mean, think about it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first Batman with Nicholson, and they even made a Garbage Pail Kids movie about it. All right, maybe forget that last one, but the point remains that this tried and true shortcut to amazing powers needs to be revived for the modern age. How about this one? Jack was frustrated and unhappy about his job at Costco. Written up twice for lateness, dropped an entire pallet of eggs off the South Side shipping dock, and he was recently demoted to cashier for heating up stinky fish in the microwave. But when Jack accidentally falls into a vat of chemicals on the outskirts of town one night, his luck begins to change. His cat like skill and reflexes soon make him the fastest checker in the store. He could ring and bag a $400 order complete with tractor tires and kegs of mayo in record time. The soccer moms all fell for him. He's employee of the month twice in a row. Then, to his horror, one day he discovers a third hand growing out of his forehead. But this only makes his checkouts faster. Tentative title: Glow with the Flow.
Swedish multi instrumentalist Raga Johansson should be no stranger to our viewers. we've offered gushing reviews on several of his seemingly endless stream of projects, including Ghoul House, Leper Colony, To Descend, and now we offer the latest from Megascavenger. Toxic, Noxious Undeath, the band's sixth album since Johansson formed it back in 2012. The album consists of 10 songs, mostly in the 3 to 4 minute range, and with titles like Shallow Grave Overflow and Flesh Burner Yearner, we're not about to get a concept album based on the life and times of Don Quixote. What Megascavenger does present is an album of tight, riffy death metal spiced with hooky melodic leads and harmonies that fans of Dismember, Grave, or Necrophobic will throw right into their cart next to the gallon-sized cheese doodles and 120 pack of Charmin. Heading for the Furnace kicks off with a mid-tempo intro riff reminiscent of Creator before uncorking a decidedly D-beat adjacent tempo, albeit adorned with Johansson's unmistakable slashing riff style. The track hits the brakes for the chorus, Roga conjuring a chill bump raising melody that shouldn't be this hooky but simply is. Let's hear a little. Let's play a clip. Heading for the Furnace.
I'd be remiss to skip over a track with a title as glorious as Exploding Casket Syndrome. Sounds like an episode of 6 Feet Under about a terrorist that would win 5 Emmys. This one wastes no time, drums pounding, speeding tempo right out of the gates. Again, Johansson's flair for quality songwriting coming to the surface as he shifts effortlessly from the nimble hardcore adjacent verses to another flash rockin' chorus guaranteed to get your mangy mane shaking uncontrollably. Not to say that Raga is prolific, but I'm willing to guess that he's already released several EPs and a split by the time I finish this review. At this point, I'd be willing to believe that Johansson himself fell into a vat of the glowing green stuff as a youth. How else is the man able to function flawlessly in every Swedish metal band composed of molecules? I'll wait for the documentary. Let's hear Exploding Casket Syndrome. Sounds of Decay 2 is a new album from Nothingness, Godslaughter. Can there really be nothingness, and why is the silence between beats terrifying? Thinkers debate whether true nothing can even exist, and I think they might be onto something. Ancient writers said you cannot think about nothing because the moment you think about it, you've made it a thing. You're thinking about something. So when you were a teenager and your mom asked for a penny for your thoughts, you said nothing. You just lied to mother. Come clean. You were really thinking about how to forge your signature on the D- math test.
Pure empty space is rarely truly empty. We have enough space junk floating up there to make it qualify as a dumping area. Zero acts as a symbol for nothing, but it still has a symbol, still holds a place, and has stuff approaching it in calculus. God, I hated that freak show of a class. And then quantum physics comes along and makes everything even more quantifiable. Absolute nothingness doesn't really exist in the way that we imagine it. Even what we call a vacuum has quantum fluctuations. You get these freaky little virtual particles, often described as blinking in and out of existence like a faulty string of Christmas lights. Even the lowest energy state of a quantum system can still have energy. Well, I may have been pretty damn close to zero after running a marathon, but I still made it home after a liquid IV. Enter this 4-piece, recently expanded to a 5-piece with addition of, get this, John Hancock. No, not the guy who signed the Constitution extra large.
That's from Massachusetts.
On second guitar, this death metal outfit from Minneapolis, whose Instagram handle pretty much sums up their take on it, Nothingness is death. To deepen the intrigue, an Instagram band pic has 6 men in it, so the mystery continues. At any rate, they bring us 9 violent tracks whose runtimes vary wildly from 1 to 6 minutes. We get all the good stuff on this third full length from these delightfully depraved hooligans. Songs about incineration, convulsing, evulsion, even the murder of God to round out the body count.
The first track to really get me ready to mosh was Convulsing Putrefaction, because every party is incomplete without a round of involuntary twitching and a little odorific decaying flesh. Lyrically, though, it isn't about some random zombie deteriorating. Humanity is the rotting corpse, a diseased, self-destroying organism with its own lies and corruption festering beneath the surface. The track starts with all kinds of percussive clout as Jason Hurt's snare taps snap away faster and faster like the ticking hand of an old-fashioned clock that's somehow been sped up to warp speed. The tension has a daunting, nail-biting feel, like the seconds racing toward midnight. The bass pumps and surges beneath it like water propelling and bobbing down the steepest of a flume ride. Barclay Olson's vocals sound like a throatful of jagged, soot-covered pebbles, which he rages and seethes around as the drums ignite into a thunderous blast beat rumble. Alex Lewandowski's guitar shivers out deformed notes before settling into a cobblestone rough riff. Olson's vocals drop a notch into a deep, raspy roar, a tirade violently expelled, itching the open wound, clawing the nerve, infected, leaking ecstasy, rapturously groping helplessly. This sounds like me with poison ivy, powerless not only to suffer through the oozing rash, but also unable to stop scratching it, self-destructively making it worse. Am I alone in this struggle?
Mid-track, the blast beat takes 5, while distorted, hairy guitar riffs fall in vibrato clumps, punctuated by little fret runs in between, getting the shaggy heads everywhere bobbing. Jason Hurt comes back in with a doomy buffalo stomp kick drum, the strikes speeding up as they convulse in little fits like chattering teeth. As the track ends, Alex Lewandowski finds a dastardly descending note groove, while John Grandel's bass chugs like a motorcycle at idle. Let's play a clip. This is Convulsing Putrefaction. Another standout is Vanquishing Providence. The band says the song is about killing God, which seems like a pretty ambitious weekend project. So cancel my meeting, Susan. Over 6 minutes, the track gives plenty of room to get the demolition completed. When the when the going gets beyond tough, it's time for an extreme makeover, God Execution Edition. Tear out the old divine infrastructure, kill the boss man, doubt everything, and be your own goddamn light.
Sonically, the track begins with a bass chord hanging there like meat on a freezer hook, a series of sulking guitar notes and cymbal crashes that punctuate the lightning illuminating the night sky during a storm. Olson's vocals sear in like a welding torch, while John Grandel's bass chords hang heavy as ocean waves. A moment of rack focus in the left ear catches Lewandowski working the frets, causing Jason Hurt's drums to start pounding, snare cracks hitting like someone beating an old rug, before shedding the whole thing with blast beats. A short guitar solo in the left ear settles in before the drums shift to a mid-paced trot into fits of violence. Lewandowski's guitars bunch up into quick guttural groans, while Grandel keeps the pitch throbbing in the back of the mix. Olson's vocals fume with fermented bile, layering into a demonic effect. Then the drums slow, almost slipping into a trance, dragging the song back into a doomy dirge with the guitar sting out sharp chord strikes. By the middle of the track, the drums rotate the doom trudge back into a welt-bruising pace, then back again, constantly shifting between oppressive weight and sudden violence. Alex describes one of his guitar riffs near the end as sounding like a big pile of beetles being mean, because while he was playing the guitar, there was apparently an actual pile of beetles doing exactly that nearby. I completely agree. The riff seems to swarm, wiggle, and roll with unpleasant little clacking noises. But now my mind is wandering as to where the hell Alex practices guitar. Should he look for a better spot, or should he keep this location permanently reserved for nasty musical inspiration? Because if a pile of angry beetles is helping you write riffs like this, I say bring them on. You never give me your money anyway.
Near the track's end, it becomes increasingly prone to fits of irritated blast beats with brief dips. The guitar notes wander and rage around tremolo-picked jiggles, wobbling like jello in an earthquake. Finally, the drums and guitars begin to slow, as if trying desperately to maintain speed inside a dream where you suddenly aren't moving forward. The cymbals crash in protest, and the song drags itself towards its final moments, still sounding like something enormous, furious, and thoroughly pissed off at the dispatched Almighty. I think my favorite track is Umbral Spear. The word umbral means the darkest central part of a shadow. You know, the darkest part of spooky, forged into a spear. This kind of wielding dark power imagery had me thinking about the cat's paw dagger, the ancient Valerian steel blade with the dragonbone hilt that Arya Stark used to defeat the Night King. Ancient weapons, dark magic equals serious supernatural shit. You know, the kind of stuff I watch at night while eating pizza rolls, but I digress.
The track begins with ominous synthesizer groans that sound somewhere between a battle horn and a cello, rolling like black clouds before a thunderstorm. Hurt busts out some drum rolls before launching into full throttle blast beat fisticuffs. Lewandowski's guitar bursting into chaotic waves while Grendel's bass churns and burns, spraying out a slick of pitch black butter. Something throbbing breaks the action, gives the chaos a little structure, almost dividing the song into sections before Hurt goes back and forth between snare strike falls, clunking and thunking like someone beating an orange Home Depot bucket, and then he resumes his punishing, relentless speed mugging. Olson fumes, screeches, and fumigates the lyrics, puncture and plant their seed, in frailty, to forcefully strip and expose every insecurity. Lewandowski shreds more than the Jordan Belfort staff in The Wolf of Wall Street, unleashing wavering note cascades and the tortured little squeaks that drop the pick solo. Near the track's end, the guitar and bass lock horns in a heavy, rich rolling groove, like gravy boiling in a cauldron, while the drums briefly pull back to focus on cymbal smashes. Olson lets loose a long, outraged roar as the drums settle into a more intermittent windshield wiper pulse.
In Buddhist thinking, everything in the universe arises because of prior causes and conditions. Nothing exists entirely on its own. Everything is connected. Just ask dirt gently, for Christ's sake. And as far as the band, Nothingness proves, as scary as the unknown darkness can be, we always have music like this to be quite cathartic noise in the silence.
Music to poke the nothing into being, slay a god, observe some Beatles, and have a beer party afterward. I love that they call themselves digressive death metal, because it really does wander, just like my own reviews. It's tight, it's chaotic, it's violent, it's wild, and it keeps a sly wink of humor tucked inside all the brutality. It's blue skull exploding fun, just like the album cover. Fans of Nunslaughter, Exhumed, or Gorguts can make camp at Everlasting Spew Records and grab a copy of this delightfully vile CD, complete with a full-color booklet, because sometimes you need to push an entire afternoon aside and stare into the nothingness in considerable detail. Let's play a clip. This is Umbral Spear. Okay, Sounds of Decay 3 is the new EP from Gravery, Purified in Blood. Is there such a thing as a gravery? I mean, I understand the concept of a cannery, and I'm in full support of the winery, the bakery, and of course the brewery. But I'm having a hard time picturing some kind of mechanized plant cranking out gravestones or burial plots. I mean, if you crank up the machines, production increases, but there's always the risk of little mistakes, like Uncle Frank, nobody appreciates you until you're dead, and now you're dead, and we appreciate it. Did ChatGPT write the engraving in an effort to get Schmeckel monuments in the black? Next thing you know, it's resting peanuts and our deepest condensations. Then the CEO gets caught in a sleazy hotel in a diaper and baby bonnet with two hookers and a howler monkey. It's out of my hands at this point.
This deathcore three-piece was formed in 2003 in the fog and smog of northern Italy. Their latest EP, Purified in Blood, consists of 4 songs, all doing their business around the 3 to 4 minute range. It may be short, but there's no lacking in potency. The disc is chock full of creepy movie samples adding to the ambiance. the wonderfully named Luca Pig Di Simone has quite the weapon of a voice, capable of dispensing subsonic roars we can feel in our chest with the high-pitched squeals that loosen plaster. Guitarist Luca Cocconi dispenses a distinct combination of low-tuned oscillations and metallic burbles. Drummer is not listed, which is a shame, because the dude is obviously some kind of savant offering up some hard-stomping double pedal workouts and nimble blasts to marvelous effect. Fragments of Life offers a skulking, skull-thumping, down-tempo riff, almost an amped-up Pantera vibe, with lots of hard pan squiggles at random intervals to keep things interesting. Di Simone grunts and gurgles for most of the track's duration, the band switching to a mid-tempo briefly around the track's midpoint before slowing to a stomp trudge to close things out, a creepy female sample crying, "Who are you? And why?" Let's play a clip. This is Fragments of Life.
Opener Icon of Sin may be the strongest cut on this brief EP, charging out of the gates with some serious headbanging action in the mid-tempo riff department. Soon the track settles into the band's signature stomp pace. They call their style downbeat deathcore, and I'm beginning to understand why. Eventually, Di Simone demonstrates every ounce of phlegm in his throat with the savage vocal hocks set against what sounds like whispered female vocals to a truly creepy atmosphere. When this track settles into the downbeat trudging riff, resisting the urge to headbang proves remarkably difficult. At any rate, get over to Gravery, Spotify, or YouTube channel to hear some of this remarkable riffing in action. Not clear if or when there will be a physical copies or not, but that's likely due to the fact that the controller was recently indicted for trying to smuggle a carload of affluent Zoomers into Mexico to pick avocados. Let's play a clip. This is Icon of Sin. There we go. Better late than never.
No, it was a little bit of a crazy week this week.
Yeah, it was. A little bit crazy.
We
Yeah,
had a show Friday night,
yeah we did. Yeah, we did.
so
Yeah.
lots of good stuff coming down the pike for you as usual.
This has been the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast. Special thanks to Matt from Goetia for appearing on the show. Snaggletooth theme by Gustav Jourd of Defleshed. Sounds of Decay theme by Steve Rathbone of Lair of the Minotaur. Sounds of Decay bands reviewed this week: Nothingness, Megascavenger, and Gravery. All content 2026, the Snaggletooth Decay Extreme Music Podcast.
Dude, can I crash here? I paid that bartender the extra $10 so he would not tell my husband I wasn't there. Apparently that was just a funny sign. I came home to this on the front porch. I'm locked out.
Fuck. God damn it.
This is the Snaggletooth Extreme Metal Podcast.